Well, our Mad as Hell series continues today with an exclusive special report, Corporate Personhood. It is the debate that says corporations are people, and because of that, they enjoy the same rights that you and I do as natural-born humans. We see it in politics with unlimited campaign donations opened up by Citizens United. But some corporations want the best of both worlds. They want to enjoy the benefits of personhood when it comes to campaign spending, but when it comes to other legal concerns, like, say, murder or human rights violations, they want to be protected by their corporate status against such liabilities. How convenient. Need an example? Look no further than the Supreme Court docket itself. SCOTUS actually taking up one of the biggest and weirdest cases to come before the bench in recent years. Kiobel versus Royal Dutch Petroleum is the case. The big question in this case: what is the correct interpretation of international law when it comes to corporate liability and suing corporations? Are they treatable like people? Here are the facts. A dozen Nigerians claim that Royal Dutch and its two U.S.-owned shell subsidiaries worked with the Nigerian government to torture and kill anti-oil activists. Who doesn't? But Royal Dutch claims they can't be sued for such things, torture and murder, because they are a corporation, not a person, baby. The Second Circuit Court agreed, citing that no corporation has ever been held liable for human rights violations under international law. That is reserved for actual individual human beings only. And this is what has us mad as hell. Big business wants to have it both ways. They're people when it benefits them to secretly purchase our government to preserve their business, but they're not people when they want to use murder as a mechanism to preserve this. Here with us, John Boniface, co-founder and director of Free Speech for People, and Mike Sachs, the Huffington Post Supreme Court correspondent. And Mike, how do we get to this point where the idea that corporations have political rights have come from? And how is it that we made it years past Citizens United on the first on free speech with corporations, and yet we haven't reconciled the downside of being a person, if you will?
Well, good to be here, Dylan. There's a 1789 federal statute that opened up the federal courts to foreign nationals alleging torts under international law. And foreign nationals can come into federal courts and say, hey, you know, this so-and-so did this bad thing to me and I want them to pay up. Now, that law doesn't specify who the defendant could be. And the Supreme Court in a 2004 case left open the question of whether or not an individual or a corporation or both can be held liable under international law.
John, let's talk about this. The DR Show crack production team, and they are crack, I will say, discovered a footnote in a brief filed related to the case we were talking about in the lead. And the footnote makes the following point. It says that if a corporation wants to assert a First Amendment right of expression in an election, it must be willing to accept the responsibility of getting sued. Do you agree with that? Where do we stand in the reconciliation of the reciprocity of corporations as people being forced to assume the liabilities?
Well, I think that the question of whether corporations are treated as people under the United States Constitution has to be separated from the question of whether we govern corporations and the treatment of them as people under statutes. The Clean Air Act, for example, names corporations as persons so that we can hold them accountable when they violate the Clean Air Act. The contract laws that we have throughout the country enable corporations to engage in via contracts, via the treatment of being people in contract terms. But in this case, 1789 statute is a federal statute. The question really is, are corporations trying to have it both ways? And frankly, you know, people, not corporations, shall govern in America. That's why corporations should not be treated as people with constitutional rights, but they can and should be held accountable under federal and state laws, and that includes this Alien Tort Claims Act, the 1789 law.
Got it. All right, let's do this real simple, Mike. It's going to be kind of barbaric, but we'll do it all the same. I'm a person. I want to give to a political campaign. I can do that under the rights of free expression. I want to advocate. I want to volunteer to. Fine. I'm a corporation. I want to do that. I can do whatever I want. I'm a person under the Supreme Court. We've been over this a billion times. Now let's go to the other side of the ledger. I'm a corporation, Royal Dutch Show, whatever it is, and I'm going to potentially participate in a little bit of murder and a little bit of torture. It's not that big of a deal. We just got to get some oil out of the ground. Everybody needs to relax, okay? But I'm going to do it as a corporation. Or I just happen to be sitting in my apartment in Lower Manhattan, and I get irritated by the people preventing me from getting oil from Nigeria because I like oil, and I decide to grab a gun and head over there and start killing people just because I'm like, literally, I need to get this oil. Are the liabilities any different for an individual than they are for a company were I to head to a foreign country and kill people because I didn't like what they were doing?
Well, that's the main question, Dylan. And for anything that's done here in the U.S., as Jonathan was saying, corporations, for a very long time under Anglo-American law, have been held equally liable for torts, contract violations, property issues, etc. The question is, when you go overseas and do a similar, or not similar, but much more egregious act, such as torture, crimes against humanity, and war crimes, whether only state actors are responsible or also private individuals and corporations. Now, the lower courts, 3 of them have held, well, according to American law and domestic law, that should hold, and that corporations and individuals, both natural and legal persons, should be held liable for international human rights abuses. Only one court, and that's the Second Circuit, from which this case is coming up, has held otherwise.
All right. The big thing, obviously, for everybody involved in enlisting in this entire undertaking, the 28th debate, learning these things, John, is for us to educate ourselves. We are a group, we are a people now voracious for new information, so we can be better contributors to the conversations that exist around this. To both of you, quickly, where would you direct me and others to learn more about this so that we have a point of view that's more beneficial to the conversation? John?
Well, we urge people to go to peoplesrightsamendment.org. Congressman McGovern has introduced now a bipartisan bill with Congressman Walter Jones, Republican of North Carolina, and a dozen other members of Congress on it. It's an amendment that would make clear that corporations are not people with constitutional rights, and you can learn more about it at peoplesrightsamendment.org. But this is really about whether we're going to restore democracy to the people, whether it's we the people or we the corporations that shall rule in America.
Yeah. And then real quick, John, will you bring me the jersey, not the T-shirts? Can I get the jersey? There it is. Did you see the sweet jersey, the sweet Get Money Out jersey that I got? You see this, John?
Well,
this thing. Look at this.
I haven't been able to see it from this newsroom, but I look forward to seeing it.
Take a look.
Yeah.
Do you have a screen in that room where you are, or are you just staring into a black hole?
I don't have a screen. I don't have a screen. I'm looking at a black hole, but I look forward to seeing it, Dylan.
Isn't it a nightmare sitting there doing TV looking into a black hole like that? I hope you're not looking into a black hole too, Mike. You guys did a great job. Thank you so much for raising the conversation and raising the bar. Mike Sachs out of the Huffington Post. Check it out today on the HuffPost. His reporting is sensational. And John Boniface, Free Speech for People, a man who wants to get money out.